Good afternoon and welcome to our February ICE webinar. Today we are joined by Nicole Danvraj, Chief Strategist and Workforce Trainer, who will be discussing an overlooked talent pipeline. Now, just a quick reminder that our 2026 ICE Expo will be taking place this Friday. So that's February the 20th through the 22nd at the San Antonio Marriott River Center in San Antonio, Texas. Now, the Imaging Conference and Expo is the only conference dedicated to imaging directors, radiology administrators, radiologic technologists, and imaging engineers. ICE offers valuable CE credits from the ASRT and ACI, and is a unique community of key decision makers and influential imaging professionals. So for registration event details, please visit attendice.com. Okay, today's webinar, as usual, is eligible for one Art Category A CE credit by the AHRA, and you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. You must complete the survey to receive your one CE credit, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. We'll be wrapping up today's presentation with a live Q&A, so please submit your questions anytime using the questions feature on the webinar dashboard. Let's kick off today's webinar by giving away one of our ICE gym bags to the attendee that can tell me the answer to the following trivia question. Today sees the start of the Chinese New Year. So 2026 is the year of what animal? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard, and I'll reveal the answer at the end of the webinar. As I mentioned earlier, our presenter today is Nicole Danvraj. So Nicole, you may begin whenever you're ready.
All right, pleasant good morning, good afternoon, depending. I am coming from you by way of snowy Flagstaff, so very cold up in northern Arizona here. A fantastic opportunity to present in front of you, my colleagues. Wonderful to see all of you virtually here. And super excited because, we're talking about this staffing. We've been talking about it for the last, 4+ years. And it hasn't seemed to have gotten a strong hold as yet. So I felt that I would come and share some insights as it pertains to how you can actually continue to create a robust staffing strategy with evaluating talent before you pay for it. So hopefully I have your attention there to lean into this. And of course, me being your presenter, I may have a colleague join us in just a bit. His name is Jay Saltis. So my partner in crime with really helping organizations to develop their talent pipeline a little bit more strategically and making sure that they're not losing their minds with, filling the gaps that they have. So very excited to share this with you. As we get started, I wanted to share a little bit of who I am. I'm very much involved in the imaging community, so you'll see me amongst my peers. Always a pleasure to see everyone at AHRA, and I'll see some of you at ICE next weekend, so looking forward to that. And over the years, I got my start actually in the military. So that's me as a baby tech. Could you find me? This is me on the middle row, left, second to left. So I got my start in radiology by way of the military. I had no clue about the military. I didn't even know what the military was about. That's to tell you how naive I was. And fortunately, based on my scores, I was recommended to go into healthcare, and that gave me a beautiful career. Look at that, from 2000, and here 26 years later, guys, I can't believe it, that I've grown in so many ways from a baby tech into leadership positions for the last maybe 15 years of my career. And then more recently, look at what I'm labeled as, a military influencer. So having the opportunity to continue to leverage my own journey and helping support service members and their spouses. I volunteer with a community of 90,000 service members here, supporting them, providing career guidance, mentorship, and opportunities. And one of my latest joys, for those of you who know me, quite the octopus here, but with a couple colleagues, Jay and Peter. Jay, who would be on the call, developing this free platform, Mill Mentor, where we provide free mentorship specifically for service members. And we have a lot of organizations that are trying to really enhance their military initiative, so leveraging as a platform as well to support the greater community at large. So that's me in a nutshell. So the last, I would say 5 to 10 years of my career has been really supporting um, military community members, the civilians as a whole, to leverage and upskill themselves and gain meaningful employment and careers out of it. With me is my colleague Jay Salters, and let's see, Jay, are you able to share audio? Linda, maybe, I'm not sure. Potentially.
There you go. I think I'm on. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes. So Jay, to share a little bit about yourself.
So I'm currently active duty military. I've been in the military for about 23 years, and it's been a focus of mine to be able to help my brothers and sisters in arms identify opportunities and find a successful career for transitioning out of the military. And so this is right down the alley of what we do. And it's always good and refreshing to be able to find, opportunities where we're able to connect talent to employers and vice versa, and then also answer some key questions, because the military is an untapped talent. There are a lot of skill sets that they bring into, including leadership, and there's things that we just get in terms of teamwork and understanding how to get the mission done that translate really well, and understanding how to help and support others. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation, this dialogue, and being able to help in any way I can. Please feel free to connect with me as a resource. If you have any questions, I don't have any problems, helping or reaching out or, digging in my bag of resources. So I look forward to this conversation. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks so much, Jay. And Jay and I actually found each other about, I don't know, about 12 years ago, where I was looking at exactly what is my next opportunity, like all of us, right? Looking at job boards, looking for support of understanding where is your career trajectory is going, and recognizing, gosh, you know what, with my experience, with the resources I have gained, being able to come and share this with my colleagues as well. So let's jump into this. As of now, I bet all of you right now, we're fighting over the same people, right? You're using Indeed, you're using Headhunters, LinkedIn, a variety of resources there, fighting for the same pool of people. And we know how huge this gap is in radiology. And what we're doing essentially, just like I have done in my last job with corporate, is really helping put a Band-Aid approach on it, right? A very short-term daily strategy where we're going to get our next hire. Now, in the last maybe 3 to 5 years, I hear more and more conversations about developing a pipeline. I'm happy to see my colleagues leveraging, that limited tech into an RT, MAs, having a variety of career ladders, and especially when attached to a university setting, being able to tap into those resources. So I've seen us go from a very reactive approach of, gosh, you know what, as a job opening comes up, we're going to post it, not necessarily having a good pipeline or succession planning. The last few years, we've definitely seen some shift there, but we know a lot of our work still to be done is going further upstream and being very proactive in developing a solid pipeline for us. So that, yes, we're not fighting, because what ends up happening is that we're competing, right? Whoever is the highest bidder, right? Somebody's bidding at 45, 55, 65, and goodness, the wages keep going up because we are so desperate for staff. But we know that that is not a sustainable strategy long term. So here today, what I'm really looking at is helping you reduce your pain points. Your overtime is up, your travel tech rates are up 30%, and I can tell you, looking at hundreds and thousands of dollars go out each month to our travel techs, and hearing the pain point of, my techs making a whole lot less and doing the same work, so having that morale deficiency, burnout, all of those things happening as a result. And in some cases, we have no choice but to go to those higher rate travel techs, because we have our open roles sitting for a long period, because we're, again, fighting over the same people. And this is what we're facing on a daily basis. We are posting the job, we're waiting for good qualified candidates. And I would tell you, a lot of times I have employers telling me, Nicole, I am paying for Indeed, pay per click or a certain number of credits per week, per day, depending on your budget, and I am getting people who have never ever stepped foot in radiology, highly unqualified candidates, yet you're still paying for this. So you're waiting and of course hoping that you get some good candidates. And then the next part is when you reach out to them, are they going to call you back? Because you know their phone is ringing off the hook. So more than likely, by the time you got to your application and you call the applicant, maybe they've already accepted a job. So we see this cycle. Fortunately, if you get someone, you train them, and then potentially, somebody else leaves and it's repeating the cycle over and over. So we want to get out of that reactive and really build a solid, robust pipeline so that our hiring strategy is more for long term rather than just, a band-aid type of approach. So when we look at what a bad hire is costing us, and think about your last maybe 6 months, even the travel tech that you got. A year ago, 2 years ago, when I was in my corporate job, I was desperate, right? Hiring travel techs, and they filled out all 5s in their competency form and evaluating them near the CT scanner, don't even know where the pulmonary vessels are or what motion looks like in a head CT. So I'm paying a lot of money, but then I'm not necessarily having that ROI. And the unfortunate thing is, we all know, tell me if you agree with this, in the last, 3-4 years, a warm body is better than no body. Tell me if that hasn't been a reality for you. And of course, we're seeing morale just at its all-time low. We have the overtime burn, I having to be in front of my peers explaining why I'm over budget with my overtime or my productivity in my department. And it's not necessarily a good feeling, especially when some things you have no control over. And worst case scenario, you hire someone and guess what? You've spent money to bring them across country, you've given them a healthy bonus, and only to recognize that even though you had a robust hiring interview question and panelists and all of this, only to recognize that they're not a good cultural fit. So to be honest, my friends, we are not short on effort. We are short on options. And I come here today with excitement and passion because when I brought this to my leadership many years ago, it fell on deaf ears. And this is before I was like a real advocate for the pipeline that I'm going to share with you. Everybody was like, yeah, it sounds good, but no movement on it. And then my most recent experience was recognizing how many of my senior leaders are unaware of this pipeline. And because of that, they weren't really ready to lean into it. So I had to advocate hard in order to say, wait a minute, let's not continue fighting over for the same people. At the end of the day, we don't have a lot of options. Here is an overlooked pipeline that we can look into. Now, fortunately, I was able to gain some trust and confidence and be able to show them the ROI. I left before it was able to be implemented, but I'm bringing this to you because unfortunately, from my own personal, with my organization there, I wasn't able to see that to fruition. But I've been able to see other organizations really leverage this overlooked pipeline and hoping too that you may not necessarily have the support and advocacy around you, but when you're able to show the numbers, show the ROI, that would be an influencer for your CFO especially. So I'm going to have you think about this for a second. What if hiring came last? What if you had the opportunity to evaluate and then hire? Think about just like you have with your students, right? They come in, you see how they work, and you're like, yes, we definitely going to keep that one. So I want you to now think about creating a different cycle for yourself. Instead of hiring, hoping that this would be a good hire, and if they're not the ideal candidate, a warm body is better than no body. Maybe we can get them to speed, competency, training, putting them with a peer mentor or whatever. But what if, instead, somewhat similar to that student model, you have the ability to evaluate qualified personnel and then hire them? Would you be like, yes, sign me up, Nicole, show me how do I get access to these people? Well, you should be saying that if you are suffering, if you are working sun up to sundown, trying to find where your next hire is, thinking about, oh my goodness, do we need to go on divert? how many people are going to go on FMLA because we continue breaking them down. We are going to be ready to say, tell me how I can continue making my pipeline stronger. So what I'm going to share with you is a significant option here where you can evaluate this person. And guess what? You don't have to guarantee them a job. It is a structured evaluation period, just like your students. And guess what? If you already are taking in students, you have an opportunity there ready for plug and play. If you're not a clinical site, developing a structured program isn't challenging because you're already doing this informally in the background. You are mentoring, you're growing people to go into a different modality, to take over a lead role, maybe to come into the supervisor position. So you've already laid a lot of the groundwork. And just like with your students coming in, or maybe when you think about like radiologist interns, you are able to decide at the end, yes, you're the person for us. You can see this person fitting in, they understand your policies, procedures, they are able to adapt to the culture, to the leadership, the communication style, everything is resonating. So the beauty about evaluating before hiring is that you have the option to see, really, is this a good fit? Essentially, trying before you buy. Now, you're thinking about, if I bring somebody in, will my CFO say, wait a minute, you can bring in people and leverage those resources, therefore you don't need you don't need an FTE on your budget. Not so fast. This doesn't look like an FTE replacement because there's no salary expense with that. So you can actually try before you buy, evaluate a pipeline of candidates, and still consider expanding your budget for your FTEs. One of the biggest successes I had in my career in the last, I would say maybe 6 years or so, is that I got super smart when it comes to the minimalistic approach of approving my FTEs. When Nicole wanted 5 people, I probably got 2. But I chopped that up in so many different ways, a 0.25, a 0.5, a 0.6, that I was able to extend at least 1.7 people out of 2 FTEs because of how much I chopped it up. With the intent, again, I was trying to be very creative with the minimal budget that I got. But with this option, your CFO is going to love you because you're able to leverage talent without shelling out a lot of money at the beginning, and to recognize that you're not losing money on a bad hire. So you have the opportunity, again, evaluation period before you make that decision. So you're not shelling out a lot of dollars to say, gosh, recognize, what, they really charmed us in the interview, but they really weren't performing in the actual clinic area. So this will not eliminate your approved positions, or it should not, and maintaining your FTEs on your budget there. Now, just like with your students, you may be saying, well, wait a minute, I still got to wait for them to become an ARRT certified before I let them loose. Well, just like a new hire too, your sonographers, they're looking for a particular certification. Maybe you need the OBGYN cert. You usually would give them maybe 180 days or a longer period to get their cert if they don't have exactly what you need, but they're still able to operate within their license. So if you're looking for a CT cert, for example, and they have X-ray, then there's no difference of establishing particular goals for them once they get started, with the intention that if they fulfill that requirement, then definitely the job could be theirs. So you're still able to leverage, just like your students, just like your senior techs. So we have experience of this already within our clinical environment. One of the other things when I usually talk to people about, an evaluation before hiring, and especially in the university setting, is like, goodness, would they disrupt the workflow? Do they know their role boundaries? All of this, again, is something that us as radiology leaders, we are very, very familiar with. We are able to bring in people, whether it's volunteers, whether it is a visiting MD from another organization, without having any type of disruption. Why? Because we're so good at creating workflows from start to finish. So if I were to bring you extra help, whether it is a volunteer or paid help, you know exactly where that person can go without causing any disruption. Now, I would go a step further saying it also depends on your environment. If you are a small practice, for example, or maybe you're still kind of figuring out your foundation, your SOPs, there could be opportunity where it could feel disruptive. However, this actually forces you to develop refined protocols, standardization, training manuals, so that it's easy for a plug and play. So if you didn't have, like, let's say you weren't a clinical site and you wanted to be, then you would be forced to say, okay, when a student comes in, what is that orientation? What is the checklist? Who do they meet? How do we do things? How do we make decisions? What qualifies for a repeat, a callback? So you would be forced to actually get those things, which you really need for solid operation. So it gives you the opportunity to see some of the blind spots in your operation or areas to strengthen when you have someone coming in for a plug and play type of approach. So what is all of this, Nicole? Evaluate before you hire. This is a pipeline that has existed for many, many years. It is zero cost to you, right? 180 days, you get to test out, you get to have a solid evaluation and a good strong plug for your performance improvement plan, your onboarding documents here. And guess what? There is no commitment. You like it, you keep it. You don't like it, you give feedback and we move on. And it doesn't cost you a dime. I told you, you're going to become your CFO's favorite right now, because this is a bona fide program funded through the DoD Skill Bridge, and it's a program that allows your transitioning service members to gain civilian work experience as they navigate that transition. Because as we know, you may look at a military resume and you may have no idea what they have done specifically to what you want. And I'll give you an example. I had a lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant colonel is a high-ranking officer within the military. And I got the resume by way of nursing, right? They know Nicole was looking for department secretary. I was like willing to accept anybody. My senior colleagues brought this resume to me and say, yep, this may be a good candidate for you for your secretary position. And I looked at this resume and my jaw dropped to the ground. I'm like, do you not know what a lieutenant colonel does in the military? This person needs to be in C-suite. Now, obviously, unfortunately for the candidate, their skills were all in, phonetic letters, so to speak, and wasn't really translating in the civilian speak, civilianese, as we call it. So the resume did not do justice for the experience that they brought. I'm like, listen, that person could be director over me for the extent of experience that they've had. But unfortunately, just looking at it, you really couldn't translate point for point. So, okay, some clinical experience, maybe a secretary is a good point for you here. So that made me realize, wow, how many good people are out there that we on the civilian side are missing because we don't know how to translate. And sometimes these transitioning service members aren't necessarily getting the opportunities that they need because they haven't been translating their experience accordingly. And that's where I step in to provide some of that career guidance with the nonprofit that I serve. So this is my golden ticket for you today. It is Tuesday, 17th of February. You should not have to go another 6 months or a year wondering, oh my gosh, how we're going to fill this gaping hole, especially as we see not a lot of people are coming into radiology, right? When you ask your colleagues in the schools, you're not having the hundreds and thousands of applications like we had many, many years ago. And also, we're seeing a lot of retirement. The mass exodus is kind of slowed down, but we are not seeing people coming in or second or third careers coming into radiology. So we still need to figure out how we're going to sustain our pipeline. And the DoD has something right there for you, waiting for you to make use of it. So this is going to be your strategy for 2026. You're still in first quarter. We can come back to the drawing board and say, wait a minute, time out. Let's look at this as a potential staffing opportunity for us in the months and years to come, because DoD is really, really focused on ensuring a smooth transition for their service members and providing this as a leverage opportunity for them. And it is called Skill Bridge, pretty much a try before you buy. And guess what? Like I said, you can leverage this in so many different ways, whether it is on the clinical side, on the admin side. I was really hoping to have my own HR person, right? By the time I'm trying to figure out evaluations, give weekly feedback, monthly feedback, that's a full-time job in itself. So all of the areas of opportunity that you're looking to either expand or strengthen your department, there is a service member for that. And it's not just a, hey, they got to do radiology. Because there's so many hats being worn in the military, you're going to get an octopus like myself being able to do many things operationally, clinically, technically, on the IT side. And they're there waiting for you to say, hey, pull me into your organization. I would say a lot of us, we say that we're inclusive, we have our doors open, but the downside to that strategy is we wait for people to come through the door. We wait for people to knock and say, here's my resume. On the other side of it, many people may not know that they do qualify to walk in your door. So it is our responsibility, and me as a radiology leader has taken this to say, I need to go pull people into my door, show them that my door is open. I need to go out there and find them and let them know the location of my open door, because sometimes it is just not as clear as we think it is. So you have the opportunity here for a lot of help for the managerial side, the HR side, your IT, cybersecurity. And when we think of radiology, and especially how big your department is, there's no shortage of opportunities where someone with their previous military experience, and you may get lucky, would have multiple of Nicoles in your department, having X-ray, CT, leadership background, coming to you from that military experience. So think about this. Having somebody, even if, let's say you were trying this to see how it works for you. Imagine having somebody working in an area that you can reduce your bottlenecks, that you're not looking to schedule 4 weeks out for your nuke med, or you're looking to ensure that your doors stay open due to regulatory compliance. Having support labor that can help you sustain your operation. Now, if I were seeing all of you, you should be giving me a high five. It's like, wait a minute, where has this been for the last how many years? This is going to reduce the gray hair and the headaches that you're experiencing when you're thinking about, how you're going to continue staffing. It is a heavy burden, right? Every day you're in staffing mode. You're wondering where is we're going to get the replacement? Who is going to leave? Because that position has been open for the last 30, 60 days, etc. So again, just a quick recap there. This is paid by the DoD, and I'll have Jay share a little bit more in a second. You have a defined time window to try before you decide to move on to the next step. You establish a structured program. You give them the specific task that you would want them to do, whether it's on the clinical or the admin side. And yes, you have the option to convert to a hire without having to pay a 10% finder's fee to the agency if it were your traveler tech that you're trying to convert, yeah? And like I said, there's no permanent commitment. You don't even have there's some nuances around it, but you don't have the obligation that you need to house and feed them or anything like that. Their salaries are paid while they're with you, so there's no dissonance in their belly, like, gosh, they're doing free labor. They're getting paid to do the work. So the attitude towards work is a little bit different than an intern who is unpaid, or a student who's there grinding to get their clinical hours and not getting any payment for it. So again, that evaluation before we decide is super critical. And like I said, it can fit anywhere in radiology. We've seen our colleagues do this in biomed, on the MD side, on the admin side, your managerial roles, on the physicist side, a lot of different opportunities here. And with the intention of, you're going to have faster onboarding because they've just spent the last 3 to 6 months with you, you're going to reduce the training fatigue on your team. It's the same people who are onboarding every time. And, they're getting upset because they're not necessarily having a carrot on the stick for that, right? We're asking them to train without necessarily giving them higher wages or bonuses, and depending on your organization. And you really get to see people for the culture fit. And guess what? If you have any biases or myths around service members, this is the opportunity to see it unfold in action. Wow, they're better than I expected. Wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Wow, I wasn't expecting this. So you have the opportunity to, if there were any unconscious biases, for those to be eradicated as they prove themselves as well. So it's not just about free labor for you, right? It's not, hey, this is what it is. It is a smart hiring tactic for you. I should say actually a strategy. And then if there is any conflict or hesitation in your mind right now, that's where I hope to see some of your questions, but you should be thinking maybe, why not? Why not lean into this? If you're looking at staying in your job for at least the next 3 to 5 years, you need to start building that pipeline right now. That way you can see that momentum move forward too. And I'm not just coming off and telling you this hypothetically. This is what has been leveraged across the US here. HCA, if anybody is on the call there, I do some work with them, phenomenal. Mayo Clinic, we know Mayo, Cleveland usually are the leaders here. All of these folks are leveraging a military talent strategy. We've gone so far now, we have military spouse talent strategy. You have folks that not just, hey, we're opening our doors, 15% of our staff are service members, veterans. We're going upstream to capture them before they actually leave the military. So Jay, if you can really emphasize the critical nature and value that this can bring to the healthcare community.
There we go. Okay, awesome. No, there is a lot of value that the military community can bring to the healthcare community. If you look at it, on average, about 200,000 service members transition from the military every year. 200,000, right? And they're looking for opportunities. They're looking for ways to start their second career, ways to start their training, and really try to expand. Now, within that, when they identify those opportunities and they're working, it's a sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose helps drive their motivation to be able to do what they're doing and love what they're doing. The difference, right, is a lot of times when organizations are looking to bring on the military community, that pipeline, whether you're looking for talent in the civilian world or whether you're looking for talent in the military, it's sometimes not as clear of what those processes look like. For this, it's not a heavy process. The service member identifies your organization. They get an approval from their chain of command. Once you are a registered skill bridge, all they have to do is to say, I want to go to this location and serve my time doing this particular role. And once that's approved, that's it. They will head over, and whether it's something that you want them to do at one particular site or a different site, as long as that's all listed out before the program kicks off, that's essentially how they can support. You're not really finding opportunities like this to be able to bring in the talent and support. And I could just give you kind of some like roundabout understanding of what type of talent the military has to offer. So just for example, the U.S. Navy has the largest group of medical professionals. It has it's an HM rating, which is called Hospital Corpsmen. It's the largest rating in the military for the Navy. And those individuals, once they get their training, once they do what they get from boot camp, and then they get their training to be in their specialty or their field of their rating, they're looking for those opportunities outside of that. And it is an easy way to connect with folks along that pipeline. If you're at the end of the pipeline saying that we have an opportunity for you to do your skill bridge here, this is the type of job you'll be doing, it's very similar to something that you've done in the military. or it could be different, essentially. But as long as there's a pathway forward. Another aspect is the military community comes with some benefits. So if they are looking to, upskill and get some certifications, there's opportunities and programs that can help us get certifications at no cost, right? And as long as it's aligned with the role and the direction that they're trying to achieve. And so it's a great value, a great benefit, and a great opportunity. And also, you're not hiring the military or bringing the military in because you feel bad. You're bringing in because they're good talent. They're good leaders. They're good individuals to put in an organization, especially when we get used to doing less with doing more with less. And so I know a lot of folks are very much interested in tapping into the SkillBridge community, and I understand the value that it brings. You really have to do your own assessment on where you are with your organization. And for some, it may be just new and trying to figure that out. All that does is take a phone call, right? Where we are now, what are we trying to do? What are some of the goals? How can this really help us improve? And what's the process and the timeline? You get those answers, you're good to go. For others, you may have a program that's very similar to it, maybe an internship with a college or something like that, where you could just, like I said, Nicole said, plug and play. It really just depends on where you are, but wherever you are, you can be met there, and you're able to still bring in talent that can help your organization in a very positive way and impact the way that you guys conduct your mission and move forward. Nicole?
Yeah, and I want to add to, you can breathe life into initiatives. So for example, we were on a call recently and somebody's like, gosh, you know what? This kind of fell by the line here. We had a military initiative and priorities came up and nobody was really deep diving into it. So now kind of dusting it off and saying, wait a minute, I want to come back to the drawing board. I want to support the military community, definitely from a philanthropic option. I want to leverage the tax benefits that hiring a veteran would give me, but I also want to ensure that I do have a strong military pipeline because I know all of the benefits. So as Jay said, wherever you are in your journey, there's a possibility for you to say, wait a minute, where can I insert this? Do we already have a current infrastructure that we can duplicate specifically, and all we need to do is now become a SkillBridge provider, or do we need to start from scratch? And as we know, our radiology community, anytime you need help, you can reach out to your battle buddy there and they would be willing to give you a step-by-step approach, or you find partners, right? You find people who have done it to help you through the steps as well. So there's no shortage of how to do it. We just have to be committed to say, you know what? This looks like a good strategy. Let me present it to my CFO. Let's see if we can get a team behind it to get it done. So Jay mentioned intern there, and then we also have our traditional way of hiring. What's the difference? Well, your intern, like I said, the key thing is that it's free labor. And with that said, not all of the time we have that 100% commitment and attitude that we would like to see, because it's free labor. There's a level of aggravation from a psychological perspective. We understand that. But at the end of the day, when you hire a tech and you have $10,000 bonus, even though you may tie them into that position for a year or two, they can still break that. And depending on your organization, you may decide you're not chasing after somebody for the remaining bonus. You just let them walk away. But you're still paying a lot of money at the upfront to ramp them up. Versus from the SkillBridge opportunity, the DoD is giving them the funds to continue working or gaining a salary as they gain the skills, as you help them ramp up. So it is a seamless transition for them. So you can now establish that 180 days, what does this look like for you in organizations? And I would say, depending on how structured and together you are, some organizations, it's kind of haphazard. The person is there, but they're not necessarily getting a good, solid onboarding. But been there, done that. My onboarding program took me a good year to revamp and get solid structure. So like I said, it forces you to really solidify some of the aspects of your operations that's kind of been on the wayside that you need to pay attention to. And then at the end of the day too, when we look at service members, it is a loyal group. the camaraderie, the togetherness. As you see, Jay, he's on a mission to make sure that he has 1,000 service members getting hired in the next couple years. So there is a level of loyalty and commitment from service members, which we can leverage. I would say we can get that from civilians as well, but it's on a different scale, right? It wasn't the mindset of being in the foxhole with your battle buddy or no man left behind type of concept, because civilians haven't been in that situation. Some people may have that ingrained and part of their nature, but you're really leveraging some of these soft skills and psychological components that we don't usually see all the time in our civilian counterparts here. So again, it is an opportunity, and you may be like, why, Nicole, why haven't we tapped into that? Well, it depends, right? You know, awareness, education. I am here to educate you. The next step would be executing, or at least, well, maybe I should say the next step is determining feasibility study for your organization, getting the buy-in of your leadership, developing the plan, executing it, etc. So it is a multi-step process. And sometimes when the operation is on fire, we just want to like, you know, tape the band-aids as opposed to let's go further upstream and really get this right. And as we see with our colleagues from HCA Mayo Clinic, they have intentionally made the effort to ensure that they're having a well-sustained pipeline and also supporting the military. So your next step essentially is like, wait a minute, let me think about this. Could this really work in my department? The first thing you should be saying is, yes, it will work. It's just a matter of when are you going to implement it? So once you're ready to decide that, you formalize partnerships. You saw on that last slide, you have names like Hire Our Heroes, Services Success, all of these companies out there, Seven Eagle, a couple others out there that have these strong programs to help build those partnerships. You don't need a partner. You can certainly do it on your own. But what a partnership helps support you with is having an access to a pipeline. You don't need to go and find, okay, which base, where they're at, what is the MOS? They're already in a database for you, ready to be deployed to you. So having those partnerships and really helping you understand what you need to become a skill bridge provider, what you need to establish a military strategy, your marketing, the verbiage, all of those things would be helpful in having a sort of structured approach. Could be done on your own, especially if you have a well-rounded HR department and even some service members in there. That can be a big help too. You're going to then have to design a structured program, but no different as if you're cross-training a staff member into a different modality or deciding to become a clinical site. Similar process there. So you got that down. And then, you know, starting the recruitment side, identifying what is it you need, what are the roles, who would be a good fit, and then just having that pipeline, is evaluating the candidate, offering them the opportunity, evaluating, going through maybe your weekly or your monthly check-ins until you decide whether or not this candidate is going to stay with you. One of the things that, as we've been dealing with more employers, has been a huge benefit, and I, for one, as a service member, really appreciate this, is the efforts that civilian organizations are making to ensure they have a dedicated section on their website to help translate their skills. So 91 Papa, okay, this is an X-ray tech, a 68 Papa, this is an X-ray tech, hospital corpsman, this is what you can do. So seeing organizations really go a step or two above and helping with translating skills, having a mentorship component, and ERG, all of these different opportunities there to truly say, hey, I see you, I understand you, I am here to support, let me help hold your hand to guide you in my organization. That has been super heartwarming for me to see in the last few months. So when you think about it, you're going to, as you reflect here, are you stuck in the survival mode, or is your organization, and when I say you know, your organization at large. I have been in organizations that we are just very reactive. We will not slow down to establish solid long-term strategies. But you got to be the one, you know, really driving that point home all the time until eventually someone listens. having the advocacy, showing the numbers, showing the downside if we don't ensure a long-term plan. So we got to get out of this survival reactive mode. And then we got to look at, is this again giving us capacity long term? Think about your 5-year growth plan. Here in Flagstaff, the organization was looking at building another hospital, really expanding services. Well, we got nobody around here. So how are we going to ensure that we have a talent pipeline when we're ready for it? Sometimes the question is, gosh, is this going to replace technologists? No, this is an adjunct. We're not looking to replace. The gap is so huge, and we know there's going to be a constant turnaround. So this is an adjunct, a support, a stopgap for you, a permanent solution, not something that drains your pocket. Consider travel techs, or those bad hires that are probably costing you anywhere between 10 and 50,000, depending on the individual. You design your program to align with your safety, your compliance, your SOPs, your policies, whatever it is, you have that ability to design your program. And you have, just like you have your peer mentors, your leads, you'll have that same level of check-ins and supervision. So all of these things, your question, there's probably already something you're doing to alleviate any potential risk or hesitation that you're seeing. And at the end of the day, it is a low risk option you can try. You can decide, sure, let's give this a try. Once you get your paperwork and stuff and you become a SkillBridge provider, what does this look like? You may think, well, wow, when you implemented, why didn't we do this 15 years ago? But as they say, the next best time is to plant a tree is right now. So we're not looking at shoulda, coulda, why we didn't do that, but we're recognizing this opportunity or option is in front of us. Are we going to leverage it for the future? So how do you implement it? Once you decide this is an option for you, well, you'll identify the need, i.e. the roles, your risk tolerance in terms of, do we want to go all in? We're just going to get our feet wet. We're going to talk to other organizations. We're going to go check out one of our colleagues and see how they did it, listen to the stories. All of those things you can do right now. You have your role, your JD already established. You find your candidate, or you partner with an organization to help you find those candidates. You have your onboarding. And again, look at this. Steps 3 to 6 is essentially what you've been doing over the course of many years with your students and people coming in temporary, permanent hire, all of these things. So it's, again, no different from what you're doing. Now, you must have a training plan before you submit to become a SkillBridge provider. DoD wouldn't say, yeah, they'll just come in and help out. They want to ensure that you're setting up their prized possessions of service members for success in your organization. This is no hodgepodge of activities here. So again, and depending on, when I come into organizations, it's quite chaotic and there's a lot of opportunities to build processes and workflow. So it does allow you to ensure you have good solid workflows before you establish these programs. And again, go into your HRA forum. Let me tell you, that is how I am a superhero in radiology, because when I am in a pinch, my colleagues are there to help, whether it's TJC, anything that I need help with. So we can find someone who has done it and say, okay, can you help share with me what that training plan would look like? Even if it's for something for your regular onboarding. There's no reason to design anything from scratch these days when you got a supportive community like us here in radiology. And I would hope that this resonates with you, because we're not just about posting jobs. We're way beyond that. We have strategic minds that we want to build pipelines. We want to, and let me tell you, I see the grit and passion and the fire when I see you all at conferences, that you want to protect your team from burnout. You want to make sure that your patients are supported. So why not now leverage an opportunity to build that solid, long-lasting team? Now, granted, little fine print there, nothing lasts forever. Anybody can pick up and go. But the key point here is being that when you are now invested and people have spent the time to see if they're a good fit and recognize, like, gosh, this is an opportunity for them, there's a little bit more oomph in that commitment. So I definitely see the opportunity to create stronger teams with some of this military talent. And again, you're thinking further upstream, right? We're getting away from that reactiveness of healthcare, all of us being change makers to say, we need to start doing something different. So my colleagues, the question is, does this work? It should be now, do you want to keep doing the same thing and beating your head and competing for the same 5 candidates, or now upset because you can compete with the hospital or the outpatient center down the street who's offering $100 an hour overtime or $60 as entry-level pay? No, we're not going to be doing that nonsense anymore. It is time for us to really act strategically and position ourselves that, you know what, you have a very robust strategy in front of you. And as we see, not everybody is taking advantage of it. It is still opportunity out there for us to start making a difference. All right, I know someone may be thinking, wait a minute, Nicole, too good to be true. But this program has existed for many years. It is now my mission to bring it to radiology because nobody's really translating that. I have had my own experience where my senior leaders don't even understand the value that a lieutenant colonel can bring in my department. So that is my mission now to say, wait a minute, there is an answer to our woes. We just need to lean into it. It's something new. It's like, you know, new equipment coming, AI coming, as we know about it, but really taking action about it is a little bit different. So to you, my friends, and Jay, I'll have you add some parting comments here. I think, or I can guarantee you, if you want to win in 2026 and above or beyond, you will be the one that's evaluating your people before you hire to strengthen your team to achieve the goals that you want when it comes to your operation and your patient care. Jay?
I would say the biggest thing that you can have is the resources at your disposal to help you grow your organization, get the talent in that you need, and be able to actually be ahead of the curve rather than being reacting to it. And when it comes to having resources like this and having a talent pool that you can rely on, it is far more impactful, especially when there's no upfront cost. It's cost savings, an opportunity to really bring in some leadership. It does wonders for an organization, and it does help expand those opportunities. And think about it from this standpoint, right? Because we haven't really even touched this standpoint. When you do have someone that's transitioning into your program in a skill bridge, that person is also going back to tell the individuals that they used to work for or work with what they're doing and what they like about the organization they're currently working for. So you're also getting a referral service in that sense and building up that talent pipeline. So it's important. It's important to use all resources at your disposal. Make sure you get a thorough understand of what this program offers you. Do your due diligence, do care, and understand how it can apply to what it is that you have going on. And like I said, if you need any assistance or you need any help getting set up, we can definitely assist with that. Nicole?
And that's on both sides, right? If you want to say, well, gosh, tell me more about how we can understand the service member. That's one thing that we are on a mission to really help employers understand what to expect from a service member. How do you evaluate them coming in with the myths around them? And that's not something that is just like, you know, just a goal. This is from our hearts and our passion, because we serve a lot of these from our nonprofit sector of supporting service members. We see their struggles and recognizing some of these people are badasses and they are struggling to get a civilian job because they don't know how to translate themselves. So we are really focused on growing and supporting that community. But on the flip side, doing our duty to share the message with employers to say, wait a minute, you've got a talent pool here. You may not be a military affiliated organization, but that does not hinder you from hiring some really, really good quality people. So something to consider, lean into. I will love to take some questions. Linda and Jay and I will be happy to support any other questions that you have. from both sides of it. I've put a QR code there if you want a checklist, if you want me to show you step by step, happy to do so. And for my colleagues out there, if I see you next week, happy to have a conversation a little bit more about, you know, establishing this or breathing life into your old initiatives as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. We've got a couple of questions here. Why is this pipeline underutilized, even though it's so good?
Ooh, Jay, that's a good one for you. Why is it underutilized, even though it's so good?
Honestly, most people don't know the process, and it's because there's a process. It's more so like I'm not going to take the time to kind of understand what I have to do it. It is a very straightforward opportunity, and there's like you essentially sign up, you take a course, which is like maybe about 30 minutes long, just to let you know what you can do and what you can't do in terms of the program. You fill out a documentation, you develop your own program, and you add some training into it. But overall, collectively, it is very underutilized because, like I said, not a lot of people are aware of what it can do for organizations. Not a lot of people are aware of what SkillBridge is, and that goes on both sides. It's not only just for employees; it's also for the military community. Not everyone has an opportunity to do a SkillBridge. It just depends on where they're located at, and then their command policies. Right. And so understanding that is really important. But the main purpose is the DoD, the VA, and the military community is really trying to help and make it easier for full service members to transition into opportunities, clear jobs that are going to allow them to move forward. And it's a big machine. So it's taking some time to get the awareness out there. Is taking some time for people to learn about what's going on, but it's moving. It's moving. It's about 4 years in the process, 4 to 5 years in the process, and a lot of growing. We've seen the stats there. There were 100,000 folks that signed up for it since the inception of the program, and so as we're
Oh, Jay, you dropped off.
Yeah, looks like he may have. But I can just jump in, Nicole, because I've got an attendee who has asked just
both
who
employees and service members.
Oh, sorry, Jay.
Oh no, you're good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it's just a question that's come in. Just say, just who would you reach out to learn the processes?
Well, you can certainly start with me. So depending on what you're needing to get where you want to go, I can give you resources. I can tell you exactly where to go, and even just getting buy-in. Like it will take a lot, especially if your organization hasn't leaned into a military initiative. Who do you talk to? What are you sharing with them? Because there's also a lot of myths surrounding hiring military as well. So depending on what you need, I would say maybe we can have a continued conversation, and then I can guide you accordingly, and likewise for Jay as well.
Perfect. Well, sadly, we've come to our hour finishing. So thank you, Nicole, for your time today and for great, very interesting presentation. And also thank you to Jay for keeping the pot. Now, as promised, the answer to today's trivia question is the horse. So congratulations to our winner, Lisa Walling in Oklahoma. Now, just a quick reminder, you can obtain your certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 Art Category A CE credit by the AHRA, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@ndpublishing.com. Please visit icewebinars.live for more details of all our upcoming ICE webinars and, of course, complimentary registration. Now, if you've missed any of our past ICE webinars, including any by Nicole, please visit icewebinars.live to view our whole webinar archive. So thank you all for your time today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, I look forward to chatting with you all and seeing some of you next week. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Isa.
Thank you. Have a good one.